It records the screen and my voice at the same time. So our first topic that we're going to be doing is integers. Can you find in your notes package where this is? So the idea with the notes package is I don't want you to spend a lot of time writing out a bunch of stuff. Instead, you have the basic stuff, and then we can add to it in certain places. And you want to see if you can find where that is, and then we're good. Okay. Integers are like your positive and negative whole numbers, including 0. And often the math involved with it can get a little bit tricky. Do you remember doing stuff like 6 plus negative 2 in middle school?
Yeah.
Okay? So sometimes it causes your brain to like, how do we go about this? And which way do I go? And how do I add a negative? And what about 2 negatives? And so there seems like there's a bunch of rules. And we're going to find out that when we add and subtract integers, it becomes really easy if you think of working on a number line. So a number line, that's your basic. Here's a number line, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we can even do, and the negative integers go in the other direction. That's your number line. So if you had a really easy question that you like go back to grade 1, 2, and 3, if you had 1 plus 2, you know that the answer is 3. On the number line, what does 1 plus 2 means? It means you started at 1, and adding means that you go 2 to the right. So if I started at 1 and go 1, 2 to the right, I'm going to end at 3, which you already know. 1 plus 2 is 3. Okay? But as soon as we get into integers, our brains can sometimes get a little bit of trouble, because what did I put up first? I had 4 plus a negative 6. So how is that going to look like on the number line? Well, the 4 is starting right here. And do you remember your teacher saying that adding a negative is the same as subtracting? So this would be the same as 4 minus 6, but then that hurts my brain as well, because if I think about normal things, like if I had $4 and I gave away 6, I'm like confused because I only had $4. How could I give away 6? Like it seems a little bit like you're subtracted too much. Well, subtracting is moving left, adding is moving right. So if I had 4 minus 6, it'd be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Where do I end up? I would end up at negative 2. Now you don't always have to draw a number line to figure those kind of things out, but you can sometimes imagine it in your head and think, okay, which direction do I go? And I see students do this sometimes. They're doing a math question, and you can see they're doing stuff in their head because they're like their eyes are looking up in space, their hand is moving in the air, and you're like, what are they trying to do there? But sometimes we have to think about those things in our head that way. You're good?
Thank you.
You're welcome. So if we add, we move to the right. If we subtract, we move to the left. Probably the easiest thing to think about with positives and negatives that you experience in real life, especially in Winnipeg, is temperatures. Okay? We are lucky to live in Winnipeg because we get lots of negative temperatures. And that helps us with our integer math. You're like, that's not very lucky, Mr. Jarrett. But it's true. So if I had a number line here, 0 in the middle, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I label 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, -1, -2, -3, -4, 6, there's a number line. What negative 3 plus 8 is asking is you're starting at negative 3. So I go on my number line, this is where I'm starting. Adding moves to the right, subtracting moves to the left. So if I started at minus 3 and I added 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I'm going to end at plus 5. We are working on this question. Get higher than roll 6? Wait, so.
No.
In temperature-wise questions, this minus 3 is like, if it was minus 3 degrees when you woke up in the morning, and the temperature is going to go up 8 degrees, what's the highest temperature it's going to get to? And then that would get us to plus 5. So adding and subtracting integers. Pictures worked? Here is. So I want you to try this one on your own. The second one then.
I'm firmly a level 6.
Okay.
Can you just put the answer?
You can, if you can do it in your head and put the answer, perfect. If you want the number line to help you, excellent.
I'm gonna be.
I want you to put the answer for the first one too.
I'm firmly level 6. Because my brain starts to shut down as I'm supposed to. Oh my God, where is my score? You're like a level 8?
I don't know, I haven't played it for a long time.
That's wild. I struggled with like 20 times 17. I'm like, come on, 20 times 10 is 200. But then I'd lose focus of the trying to take, it's the time.
It's the time gets you.
If I had another 5 seconds, I wouldn't get anything wrong so far.
Yeah.
But
Which is the neat thing about that.
Sorry for the
program
interruption. All
is the
grade
time
11
part
students with the last
makes
name
you wanna
starting
develop
A
a
through
better
F,
strategy.
please go to the gymnasium
Right.
for pictures. That's
Right.
all grade 11
And I
students
think I started
with the last
slowly
name
doing
starting
that.
with A through F, please
like
go to the
probably a
gymnasium
couple
for
days
pictures.
of that, and I'd be like level 7. Because I already started connecting, okay, I see a 7 with a 2, I gotta think 140 right away.
Again, the number line helps us. It's not something we have to do. But it gives us a visual. If I'm going to start at 5 and subtracting goes to the left, I need to go back this way 9 units. Options we have. Okay? I'll start off with the slowest option. The slowest option is counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and I get my answer. Slowest option works out just fine. But there are some sort of tricks that you can kind of develop along the way with some integers that might be helpful. Like, I like to use 0 as a trick. I need to go back 9. How much have I gone back if I get to 0? Gone down 5. How many more do I need to go to get 9? This is subtracting 5. I need to do 4 more,
That's how I do it in my
get
head.
to 0, and then go from there. That can be really helpful as a strategy for putting these things together. Other things that can help you develop stuff in the end, right? Do you know that 4 plus 5 is 9? Like there's connections in between the numbers you have that way as well. But I like that jump back to 0 and then to minus 4 instead of counting. Because if you're counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, where was that? Oh, I can start again. 1, 2, 3, and you might make some more mistakes that way. Now a negative you can think of a negative as an opposite. So, we talked about earlier that maybe your middle years teacher told you, hey, adding a negative is same as subtracting. But if we think of negatives as always doing the opposite, adding would normally go to the right. As soon as I hit the negative means do the opposite, instead go to the left. So we can think adding a negative is the same as subtracting. So we could write this -4 minus 3. Or you could just think of, I start at -4. I'm supposed to move to the right. Oh, I hit a negative. Nope, switch, move to the left. 3 units.
I always like to say things exactly the way they are out loud. So
Okay.
for me, I'm always like, I actually don't mind, I wouldn't change it to -4, -3.
Yeah.
I would actually just go, I have 4 negatives, and I'm going to add 3 more negatives.
And
That's
then
how
that
I
makes
do
you
it.
go backwards.
Yeah, because it's how I say it, I have 4 negatives, I'm gonna add 3 more of them.
-4 is where I'm starting, right there. I want to add -3. Adding normally would go to the right, but then the negative is the opposite, so I need to go back 1, 2, 3. And that'll get me to -7. Or if you do like to change the adding to negative to subtracting, this says start at -4, subtracting means go to the left. Go to the left 3 units, you'll get to -7. And sometimes I think about, like, I like what you said there, like I have a -4 and I want to add more negatives to it.
Mhm.
A negative and a negative together, you just get more negatives. So -4 plus -3 is almost the same idea as 4 plus 3.
Yes.
4 plus 3 is 7. But if you're adding negatives, -4 plus -3 is -7. Some teachers sometimes have like,
Same sentence.
well, like sometimes they have counters and they say like, right, I'm gonna just draw a bunch of circles. And they say, if they're colored in, you ever do stuff like this? Have things like, if they're colored in, they're positives. If they're not colored in, they're negatives. And so, a positive and a negative can't, like, they just disappear if they get put together.
Cancel.
Right. And so if this would say I have -4, that's those ones, plus -3. If that's what I have, what do I have that I'm left with? I have 7 of those open circle things, so I'm left with -7. As another way of seeing it. This last question, if we would have done this, I have 5 open circles and 9.
Well, it's positive.
Okay, I'm getting this.
So filled in is negative.
Filled in, oh, shoot. No, that's it. Filled in, I said was positive. I was getting so excited about coloring. So the 5 would be filled in. And then the 9 would be empty. And this would cancel out with this one.
I think that just initially helps you see positives and negatives differently.
Yeah.
And makes it easy to start under, but you can't stay on that long.
No. Like, it's nice to have these visuals and things, but eventually, what do we want to be able to do? We want to be able to take a question like -4 plus -3 and say that it's -7. If we're getting stuck, it's nice that we have a number line or some manipulatives to think about so that we can help make it make sense. But eventually, we want to get -7. And
Who could say that out loud, exactly what that is?
how do you read it?
How do you read that?
Why don't you have to change it to first?
Well, so if we think of the number line thing, right? Subtracting negative is the same as positive. Why is that, right? Like, it's kind of weird. So if we think of the number line idea, this would say, start at 8. There's 8. This is my starting point. Subtracting says go to the left, right? If you did 8 minus 5, you'd go back to 3. Subtracting means go to the left. A negative says do the opposite of what you were going to do. So if I'm subtracting and going to the left, then I hit a negative and say do the opposite, then I end up wanting to go 7 to the right. Where would I end up? 15. So the answer to this one is 15.
Which is exactly what you said. Is it, if you
So-
take away a negative, you basically add it. And that's how I say it out loud. My thing,
Take away a negative.
I have 8, and I'm going to take away 7 negatives. I'm going to take away negatives, I'm basically adding.
And sometimes people think of, like, if you're thinking about money, 8 is like having $8. Negative 7 is like I owe Mr. Sher negative $7. So how much money, if I have $8 and I owe him $7, right? I really, once I pay him back, I should have only $1. But then Mr. Shirk, because he's such a nice guy, says to me, you know what?
Don't worry.
I'm going to take away, because subtracting is take away. You have $8, but I'm going to take away your debt of $7. Don't worry about it.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Well, now,
So now it's like,
I got $15.
things are good. Life is better if I don't have to pay that debt. So, different ways of thinking about these things, but that subtracting a negative, if you think about which way subtracting goes and the negative will just change it to the opposite of what it was, that's why subtracting a negative ends up being a positive. Right? And if he takes away the debts, that'd be awesome.
That'd be a positive.
It's a positive thing. So the first number is where you're starting. This is where the number line is helpful. Got a negative 4. That's where I'm starting. And then I want to add 6 to it. Where would you end up? Put your answer down on your paper. And we're already on the next page, so you can flip it over as we're going. You're at negative 4, you add 6. Okay? You can think of it as a number line. Here's 0.
See,
1,
now
2,
my
3,
brain
4.
does a little more of the image that you showed. Now my brain goes.
Now you're going to those
canceling.
dots?
Now I go to the canceling.
Okay.
I'm like, oh, I have 2 more positive than I do negative.
And you get your answers too. This is where we're starting. Adding means you're going to go in this direction 6 times. You're going to end at 2. When did you learn? How old do you think you were when you learned that 2 plus 3 was the same as 3 plus 2? How old do you think you were? That they're the same thing?
6, 7.
Yeah, pretty young, right?
6,
What about multiplying? You know that too, right? 3 times 5 is the same as 5 times 3.
Just lines
Do
it
you-
up.
Do any of you have either brothers or sisters or cousins that are little? Okay? It's, you can do experiments on them. Like not real experiments, math experiments. But it's kind of, watch a little kid who's just getting their times table. If they're just getting their times table, do this to them. Give them one that they can do. It takes them a little while. They say, like, what's 5 times 2? And they'll work at it, they'll work at it, they'll work at it, and they'll get 10. You like, good job, good job. And then right after you give them 5 times 2, you say, okay, next, 2 times 5. And it's fun to watch because it still takes them, they go, because they don't know yet. And you're like giggling, you're not giggling, you're not really doing mean experiments on little kids. But you're doing like math experiments on them. Because at a certain age, they don't know that 5 times 2 and 2 times 5 are the same thing. And they actually figure it out, like 2 times 5 for them is like, I have 2 5s. And they figure out 10. And then 5 times 2 is like, ooh,
I got 5 groups.
5 groups of 2.
E.T.
And then like 10. And you're like, but they don't know it's the same thing. But once you know it's the same thing, you can play around with this as well. Like, for me, negative 4 plus 6 is harder than 6 plus negative 4. You see what I did? I just switched those two numbers around. Because for me, this looks like 6 minus 4, and I get 2 quicker. Something you can do with integers. That idea that you knew even as a, like, maybe you learned it when you're 7 or 8, that you knew that it was the same either way, that could help you in this situation as well. I think that's why. I know, you probably can tell that I like math. But I just find all these little patterns that math does, for me it's so fascinating. And for me it's fascinating that, like, for me this one is harder than this one, even though it's the same thing. I can see it so much better if it's 6 plus negative 4 than I can if it's negative 4 plus 6. Negative 13 plus negative 7. You have negatives, and you're adding more negatives. I like that image. You should get even more negatives than you began with. Because you have some negatives already, and you're adding more negatives. As the number line, you're starting at negative 13 on your number line. The adding says you wanted to move to the right, but then the negative says switch direction. You're at negative 13 on your number line. Oh my goodness.
Quick fix.
There it is. Negative 13 would be right there. And we want to go back 7 more in that direction. Where are you going to end up?
Orso's got the answer.
Yeah.
You got these integers down pretty good, eh? Do you get all this positive, negative stuff?
That's the most negatives I can make in a single question. Negative 7 minus negative 4.
Step 1, rewrite if needed.
Put down your answer. You got an answer? All right. Here's your check.
We.
If we think about it, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is where we're starting, right here, minus 7. Subtracting would normally go to the left, but the negative makes it go in the opposite direction, right? So we're going 4 in that direction. And we would end right here at minus 3. Mr. Shirk, for this one, when you read it out, does it work out for you that well, or do this one, do you subtract the negative, you go positive?
No, I still say I've got 7 negatives, and I'm going to take away negative. And as soon as I hear I'm going to take away negative, that means.
You're going to have less of them.
So then I'm going to go, I have 7 negatives, and I add 4 positives.
Well, you just need to adding, though.
What's that?
I thought you were going to keep the negative thought. Like, I have
I
7
still-
negatives, and I
then
take away 3 of them.
3, yeah.
I'm going to be left with 4.
Or
I mean,
4
I
of
take
them.
away 4 of them, I'm going to be left with 3 of them.
Yeah, I still kind of, I say it out loud. I have 7 negatives and I take away 4 negatives. But to take away negative means I'm going that other way. That's a good point. I see what you're saying though, conceptually.
Yeah. Because you can think of it that way.
Yeah.
right?
Well, you think that's the way I would think with what I do.
Right? How many of you in the past would have been like, I see one negative, I see more negatives, I give up? Is that sometimes how you approach the question like this? I see one negative, see more negatives, I just want to give up.
I think that is generally true.
Okay, try this one. Try this one, lots of numbers put together.
Oh. Do you have an answer?
Sorta. Is it -1?
Yeah. In the end, we get -1. You're at 25. You subtract 13. Where would you be at? You would be at 12. Sometimes you can do that. You can rewrite a question if you want to take step by step. Now I'm at 12, and I add -6. That's going to get me to 6. So I can rewrite this if I want. Then I'm at 6, and I subtract 7. That's going backwards.
6, 7. It's everywhere.
God, we're not even allowed to say numbers anymore. Oh man.
Oh man,
Oh man.
it's getting bad. It's getting bad.
And we get -1. Okay. Multiplication and division. So there's some crazy rules that they go and positive times a positive number, that's super easy. Like 2 times 3, you're used to that, that's positive. Positive times negative, that one kind of makes, like, it kind of makes sense to me, because if I think of multiplication as repeated adding, right? 2 groups of 3. Here's 3. Oh. Hold on, big eraser's bugging me. 2 groups of 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. How many dots do I have in total? I have 6. 3 plus 3 is 6. So if I had 8 groups of -4, I'd have -4, and then another -4. Why did I pick 8? -4, and another 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 -4. Right? -4 and a -4 is -8, then -12, then -16, then -20, then -24, then -28, -32. So what do we do for the most part? Is like, I don't like counting my minuses so much. Instead, I think, do I know what 8 times 4 is? Just happened to be the one that is not my favorite.
What happens here though is, it's so weird though, because if you have -4 first, how can you have -4 groups of 8?
I know, it seems like it doesn't quite jive that way. And especially when you do the negative times a negative. You have -2 groups of -3s.
Right.
Brain doesn't, right? So sometimes some of our initial ways of thinking about things sort of get tangled up and don't work well once you get negative things involved. So then we sort of like, okay, for negative times negative, we're not going to try to think of groups anymore, but we're going to remember that a negative number times a negative number is going to be a positive number.
And that's just rules of math.
That's part of, yeah, some things are like rules of math. So negative times a negative.
Will always be up.
I guess if I wanted to think of this, this is probably one way that I might, trying to think how I could describe this and make it better. Maybe I take that 4.
Sorry for the interruption. All grade 11 students with their last name starting
And think of it like that.
These will
Then I can think of my
be
4 groups of negative
pictures.
7.
That's grade 11.
That gives me negative 28.
Throughout
And the negative
these
just makes things
will be
opposite.
Pictures.
So then I change it to positive 28 in the end. I don't know. For this point, I think it's probably the easiest. If you're multiplying a negative times a negative, that you just go, okay, I'll do the math. 4 times 7, 28. And then a negative times a negative is positive. We got a couple more, and then I got a practice sheet for you. And we can start working on some of these. Negative 9 times 3. Well, I would do 3 times 9. That would give me 27. Then a negative times a positive would be negative.
How many of you have seen a dot for multiplication?
Oh yeah, that might be new, right?
Probably.
Is that new for
Or
you guys?
brackets.
Yeah. So what's going to happen this year is we start doing some algebra with x's. And because we use x's in algebra, and x's used to be multiplication, it gets a little confusing. So sometimes they use dots for multiplication. Sometimes they just put the two numbers in brackets for multiplication. Sometimes we still use the x for multiplication.
Like your sheet.
And then same thing with dividing. Can you do the numbers? If you took 36 and divide by 12, you get negative 3. And if you took negative divided by negative, it's going to be positive. From your times table the other day, 63 divided by 9?
9 times what is 63?
9 times what is 63? This is the one that you gotta.
I think a lot of people had that.
They had it written down on their paper.
I think they had that on their paper to remember.
It will be 7. Okay, I have got a paper for you to practice adding and subtracting.
Without toss it, right?
Class ends in like 5 minutes, so you get as much done as you can in the last 5 minutes here, so you don't have much homework to practice. If you think you're going to lose your notes, put your name on them and put them back in the green bin. If you are an organized person, you can put them in your binder and bring them for next class.